today, the only thing that has changed is we get to fail faster, and any individual can now fail fast. But I wage war on the word fail because there's no such thing as fail unless you die and the thing dies and we just stop, but it's all data.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Founder Real Talk. I'm your host, Josh Broward, CEO of Wisdom Partners. And if you are joining us today for the first time, we're here because the founder journey is hard. And it doesn't do anybody any good to just tell the fun celebration part to the story. So we want to talk with founders and hear their real stories. And today we have a founder with us, Justin Abrams. He is the co-founder of Cause of a Kind. They build custom software and web applications for impact-driven businesses. So as a company that also supports a lot of impact-focused founders, I'm excited to talk to you today, Justin.
Hey, likewise, Josh. Thanks for having me on the show.
Tell us about the problem you're solving with Cause of a Kind.
Some time ago, I had the fortunate opportunity to sunset a career and pursue building for others. And so that's how the agency was born. I spent an entire career, 15 plus years, working for enterprise technology businesses in the MarTech sector and the FinTech sector. And I really specialized in kind of two categories. One was pre and post, pre-sales and post-sales, the client success journey and the acquisition journey, like anything that you can imagine in the enterprise sales category. And so that creates a bit of a formidable individual. I definitely implore anybody that has the skill set of both client-facing, project-oriented, post-sale experience that also is a salesman to really think creatively about what being a founder of a business looks like. That's a lot of the formula is how am I going to sell the thing? And then how am I going to keep the people that I sell it to? It's a big part of the equation. And so I'm fortunate enough to have a counterpart, and my co-founder is my best friend since I'm 15 years old. Shout out to Mike Rispoli. And so Mike and I decided to build a business that leverages really his core competence, which is he's a full stack engineer. He's an architect of software, and kind of leverage those things as the core offering for the business. And so we decided maybe 10 years ago that we were going to make a side hustle while we were working against our careers, and COVID came along. We had the great opportunity to start working from home, get some extra bandwidth back in our day. And I'm shortcutting all the gory details along the way, but the universe wanted us to start a business together. And here we are 10 years later. We'll celebrate our 10-year anniversary right here in June. And it's been a heck of a run. What we specialize in is getting vision out of people's heads. I build dreams for a living. So it could be for existing businesses that want to innovate. It could be for a founder who has spent a career staring a problem in the face and wants to go out on their own and build it for themselves, and anywhere in between. And so I've really specialized in a little bit of, I think, the moment that you also have built a business in, Josh, which is I am working with founders of all different skill sets, most of which are domain experts, but they're not really experts in entrepreneurship. They're not experts in business. They really don't know the rest of the equation. And so when businesses come to us, not only am I responsible for building your idea, but I'm also responsible for helping you to build your business. And so that's what I find a lot of joy in. That's what I created an entire podcast series on called Strictly From Nowhere, where I feature founders in the journey from zero to market and the trials and tribulations along the way. And so it's become a bit of a muse for me. It's something I really enjoy, is watching the founder with bright eyes and bushy tails skin their knees along the way, ultimately trying to find it to their goals. And it makes for a fun adventure for me as a businessman too.
Yeah. Why does building other people's dreams resonate with you?
Isn't that so funny, right? So like I said I'll skip the gory details. There's all sorts of little things that happened along the way before I just like poof, build Cause of a Kind. My partner and I have tried to build our own ideas countless times. If anybody's interested, you go to cokestudio.com, COAKstudio.com. You can see all the things that I have tried to build, some of which are open source, some are SaaS products, some are internal tools, some are communities, some are whatever. Like I have all sorts of stuff that we have tried to build. My entire portfolio is there. There's something really challenging about building your own idea, right? And that's why a lot of us choose to a third party to help us build the idea, because maybe I'm too close to my problem. Maybe I think that this is a great idea, but the world just doesn't want it. I have lots of different stories. Some things work. And then when you try to approach things like product market fit or trying to find scalability, you hit different issues. So I see the whole spectrum. At some point along the way, it was like, man, we're really good at building, but somebody else should bring the idea, right? Like my idea is that we were really great at building, really great at executing. Nobody wanted to buy. And so rather than just like being a failed founder and like where you're supposed to get the money to support your lifestyle, I have a family, I have a home, my partner's a family and a home. Like at some point you can't just chase the dream. So why not build other people's while we also try to build our own? And so we run both of those initiatives in parallel. I push out, as you can imagine today with the advent of AI, I'm pushing out more personal projects, more side quests, more internal tooling. My goal is to run a lean operation with as little overhead and expenses as possible. So anywhere where I can kill a SaaS subscription and build it internally, custom for our business, we do that. Made an entire show on the podcast about that called SaaS Killers, where we literally just try to thin the boat. I just don't want to carry so many subscriptions, and it's strugglesome for small business for sure. And so while we have all of that on the side, the thing that really called to us and the thing that I have become formidable in is building other people's ideas. Let them focus on building their business, building their first marketing material, really getting that idea out of their head in a way that it doesn't feel barriered. And building their first products and helping them to achieve the milestones after that first product. It could be first customers, it could be first investors, it could be first enterprise sale with a licensing play, like whatever your first milestone is. I've spent my career trying to get, again, pretty formidable in helping businesses achieve those goals from the earliest start.
And so I resonate with that a lot. I sometimes say our calling or my calling with Wisdom Partners is to help other people, other founders fulfill their visions. Because having a good idea is just a start. Even building a good technology is less than halfway there. Like you can actually solve the problem. That doesn't mean you have a sustainable business.
That's so true.
What we do is usually we start working with people after they've mostly got the problem solved, but now it's time to build the business.
Sure.
And because that's when they start to get outside their skill set usually.
Yes. And I see that often, right? Like folks come to us, they have domain expertise. So they I'll give you a for instance, you might have like a career attorney. Maybe he's like a real estate specialist. And he sees a gap in the market where a piece of software that he's always dreamt about building could fill. But he spent his whole career working for a firm, didn't really have to worry about what it was like to operate that business. You start thinking about staffing, you start thinking about vendor partners, you start thinking about taking on expenses like your own real estate for a place to have HQ. Like there's all sorts of things that come your way when you're confronted with how do I start this business? What's the responsible way to form the business? What's a responsible way to, create tax structure and think about an exit strategy from day one, which most people do not do. And so all of these things that people are confronted with about starting a business is such a far stretch away from, I have a great idea and I want to see if anybody will buy it from me. Because once you sell it, once somebody buys it, you have to maintain it. You have to build infrastructure around it. You have to build an entity that sustains it, that innovates, that remains relevant. Like the hard part is twofold. One is zero to market. That first push of trying to build something that the world wants. And the hard part is building the business that scales. That in between, that honeymoon phase, like you're getting a couple customers, the Stripe account is starting to light up. It's me, I'm the founder, I'm the one fielding not only the sales calls, but the service calls, like a nice lean team, everything's blue sky. That's the easy part. It kind of feels hard because you got a job, you're working in your business, like you have a little bit of a job that you've created for yourself. But that's not what we want. I want to start a company. I want to leave legacy. I want to create impact and meaningful, gameful employment. And so that's the real hard part is like, man, I've caught enough of a signal where I need to start growing. And then we could talk about, I'll let you lead the conversation, but we could talk about all the different ways that people grow. Like it's one thing to bootstrap and grow. It's another thing to take on loans and investments and liabilities and partners and lots of different ways to make this work.
Yeah. Well, let's think specifically about Cause of a Kind. What's a win for the past year that you're really proud of?
Ooh, you know what's really cool about my business? I speak to a lot of peers in my industry, and everybody seems to be struggling to figure out how they should price their service, how they should support their partners, how they should innovate, what are the challenges that they should be confronting, all on the advent of AI. You know, developers are the poster children for AI is going to steal your job. And me and my organization could not be more bullish against that. Like we are in the age of expertise. We're in the age of being the most valuable resource on the planet, which is human intelligence and experience and taste and creativity, right? And so all of the things that I have always doubled down on, like several years ago, the things that I was really presenting were not fashionable. It was all like a race to the cheapest hour. It was all about nearshoring and offshoring. It was all about like a race to do the most that we can with the least expense, which is like kind of the sentiment today, do the most that we can with the least expense, which is what the AI sentiment is about. But you have never had more software, more businesses, more websites, more innovation than you do today. And so it's really interesting when people wake up and they come up with a good idea and that idea manifested over a weekend and all of a sudden there's transactions occurring and you're confronted with the idea that, man, maybe this product that I vibe coded over the weekend doesn't scale or has vulnerability, or there are things that are happening under the hood that like I personally as the builder don't even have any experience in. And so it's never more valuable of a position to be in. And I have tons of stories from this past year. Like one of my best marketing campaigns was bring your lovable project to me and I'll get you over the line to an actual business. And so I love those. I love like the curiosity that has been reintroduced into technology, the capabilities of the computer. Like people are never more interested in what is possible with this little machine that we're all using. And so I love how this has just sparked new creativity. I love that like innovating businesses, legacy enterprise innovating businesses are now really curious. They're trying to like just push the needle and try to, work on creativity and fail faster and get more data. I love the world that we're in right now. I think we're absolutely positioned to participate incredibly successfully. So lots of wins. I work with lots of different brands, lots of different initiatives. Some are nonprofit, some are just simply cause back and mission driven, most of which are rooted in just incredible avenues. And I'll give you just one story. I love working with boring industries, like classic, boring, blue collar, like they're so ripe and they're so plentiful for adopting technology and kind of just leapfrogging into the future, not necessarily having to do all of the things of modernization that businesses have had to do in the past. And so we're fortunate enough to be working with an oil and gas company, large oil and gas company here on the East Coast. And man, what a success story to be able to modernize the last 30 years of software development in-house for them and like build a new normal for an internal business. It's not a product that you would use or that I would use or anything like that. It's internal infrastructure for this legacy 150-year-old business. And so, man, like things like that, they're not sexy. It's not like I built like the next Uber or like the next crazy investable business. Like you see those happen all the time. Those are unicorns and super rare events. But I encourage people all the time to just look no further than Main Street. Look no further than your drive to your favorite coffee shop. You'll pass more businesses that need your service than you could possibly ever service in a lifetime. And so that excites me, is like finding just simple businesses that are part of all of our daily lives and helping them to innovate with software.
Oh man, yeah, so much to reflect on there. Two things just about what you just said. One is we have a blog post called "The Power of Unsexy Customers."
Yeah.
You can
Love it.
make a bleep ton of money
Yeah.
serving unsexy customers because other people aren't hunting them, and
That's
they
right.
need help. And
That's right.
so you might think, well, I'm not cutting edge. They don't understand the cutting edge. They just need you to get them to like the par
That's right. That's right.
or
That's
one
right.
below par, which is an advance for many of them, above par, like hitting a bogey. They'd be like, yes.
Yeah, right. Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
good. Made it to the 2000s. But you can just make money hand over fist serving traditional brick and mortar or like blue collar industries. So that's one thought. Another one, my co-founder Charles, now he also runs a small private equity firm, and they bought a marketing company, and part of their mission is to bring AI powered marketing to Main Street. And part of the private equity firm's mission is to bring the power of AI to Main Street businesses. So like I think you and Charles are both on like you have your pulse on a real issue that is like can be mined forever.
Yeah, for real. And I just so happen to be here, born and raised outside of the mecca of everything, which is New York City. And I live right here on Long Island. And I often say this to people, own your avenue. And I actually mean like your street. Like think of a New York City avenue. Own your avenue. And so for me, like there is enough business here on Long Island to last me generations. And so it's great. I service customers all over the world. That's wonderful. But like this morning, I went to an event in person, 8:15 in the morning, to the iconic Jones Beach Amphitheater with the Long Island Hop Hog Innovation. I think that's what it's called, Hop Hog Innovation Group, whatever. It's a networking event. There were 150 people that showed up at this event. It's all about owning your neighborhood. And like, you got like I just encourage people, if you don't know where to start, you're not really great at cold calling, you don't know how to generate pipeline for yourself, go on Eventbrite, pick a local vendor business, go to a chamber event, chamber of commerce event, whatever, get out there, own your avenue. And so that is like a little bit of a slower strategy. You got to make relationships and that takes more time. It's different than like a digital inbound strategy. But like, man, that's like durable. To own your avenue and to go after the local businesses that exist in your town, in your city, in your state. Like, just how many shared conversations can I have just about being a Long Islander with other Long Islanders? And so that's a great way of just trying to create relationships first, which is the essence of sales. And I often tell people I have nothing to sell you. I just am interested in what you're building. And I have something that is valuable for you in one way, shape, or form. And doesn't necessarily require a cash exchange. And so I love that. I mean, I'm super fascinated with what's built on Main Street. These are businesses that all have budget and all have creative ideas, and they are locked in their businesses because they have to be hand to hand with patrons, and they have different lifestyles than I do as a remote technologist. And so I just I love bridging that gap. And most people are buying on a handshake. Most people are looking for a vendor partner or an extension of their business because they see themselves in me, or because like I made it very comfortable for them because I was relationship first. And so I definitely love, and I would love to talk to your partner at some point too, of what's working and what's valuable, especially in the marketing ecosystem. That's really my jam.
Yeah, happy to make that intro later on. Hi,
So fun.
Charles is always down to chat.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to just double click on is you said it a few minutes ago. basically there's a trend that some people are starting to talk about that's kind of counterintuitive. And that is, as AI gets more powerful, the essentially human things get more valuable. You called it expertise, but you also mentioned taste, there was a NFX article on taste is the new moat. NFX is a VC; they do a lot of publishing. I like to say AI can crunch your data, but it can't give you wisdom. Like, how do you make this decision, or how do you self-regulate before a difficult meeting or after, between? Like, those are like that's stuff that technology can't do for you. AI doesn't have emotional intelligence. Like it, and sometimes people say, "Yeah, not yet." I'm like, "No, bro. No matter how good it gets, it's not going to be a human, and we need to interact with humans, and humans are always going to be better at crafting what it takes to work with humans." So we can get faster. We can use technology in increasingly cool ways, but I think the human will always be in the loop. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the world changes often. And I think like this is just a bigger change that like the collective consciousness is aware of. And so I don't know if you're a consumer of television shows, like the one I'm thinking about is like Mad Men. And if you watch Mad Men and you take a look at like the office dynamic and what original advertising looked like on Madison Avenue in New York City, the brilliant basics of advertising still exist today. But man, the way that we do it has entirely changed. The roles have changed. The industry has changed. The value of the thing has changed. You have like titans of industry who are still like at the top and doing the most sensational things. But what you don't see is how many swings they take throughout the year and flop, how many billions of dollars they burn through to not convert, how much staff and talent they have to go through to try and find the unicorn of a generation that's going to be David Ogilvy. You know what I'm saying? So today, the only thing that has changed is we get to fail faster, and any individual can now fail fast. But I wage war on the word fail because there's no such thing as fail unless you die and the thing dies and we just stop, but it's all data. And so I think businesses are maybe approaching it differently. Like, think of it as an expansion of consciousness. If you are directing, like if you're thinking about being on a movie set and you are just directing the skill that's available to you, and you have the combination of human talent and robotic talent, hopefully the combination distills or yields unique output. Now, the machine itself is trained on human consciousness. It's trained on the things that we have already discovered and what we already know. And while it could potentially crunch the data to find new outcome, it only did so faster than we would have done inevitably. It would have just taken us longer time with a slide rule and the old-fashioned way to try and figure it out. So all we have today is really an acceleration to failure. Sometimes you succeed, but then on every successful path, you know this as well as I do, on every successful founder's journey, there is a graveyard of failed attempts. Even for the thing that worked. I mean, you take a look at the formidable businesses of today. You take a look at Meta. Meta just killed the entire virtual reality program after renaming themselves Meta after the metaverse. Like, talk about just taking huge risks and talk about failing. And the goal is to not fail on billions and have, 40,000 person layoff. The goal is to fail intelligently with the tools that are available to us today. And so I just think the nature of the way that people work is changing. The tools that people have access to is changing. But guess what? When everybody has email, it becomes basic. It becomes the absolute basic of experience. So when everybody's got agent workflow, when everybody can run their job using some type of agentic formula. It will be the basic of expectation. And then you'll have industries that try to play catch up. You'll have industries that are notoriously slow to adopt technology because the risk is too high. And so once those catch up, you'll have a totally new normal. And the only thing that really will still be available is the simple idea that humans buy from humans, and the simple idea that if there is no human to consume, why would the thing have to exist in the first place? And that's kind of the way that the world goes round and round. There will be this entire economy where machines consume from machines, or machines consume from humans. And like, you'll start to see that in like, all sorts of innovative areas that I can't even start to imagine right now. I'm thinking like totally autonomous solutions to things. They'll consume, the non-tangibles, the datas, the bandwidth, the microservices. Like, I don't even know what that future looks like, but there will be an entire economy where people benefit from the cash transfer, but that there's no human in the loop. Like, that will happen, but there will also be entirely different economies. Like, for example, experiential economy is going to explode. People are craving events and festivals and conferences and in-person local meetups and all. I run those too because I know that people are just not sure of what the machine is going to do for them, but they are sure that they need people around them to help them find creativity and help them find new opportunities for luck. And so I think the future is more human than we expect it to be. And I have no worries that it's going to take my job, because I'll just innovate away from, whatever was a liability or took my job in the first place. We'll just find a new path. And I think that's what humans are just really well designed to do, is just find the path that is ultimately going to lead to their success.
You mentioned the graveyard of failures that exists for every founder. One thing we like to say, somebody taught it to me during my PhD process. He said, wisdom is failure redeemed. And so I wonder if you could give us an example of one of those tombstones in your failure graveyard, and how you redeemed it to learn something valuable.
Absolutely. I often say wisdom is the receipts of failure. It's like the proof of purchase. And I'll just give you the story of Cause of a Kind. Like, I don't talk about anybody else's business except for mine. When my partner and I, about I would say 11 years ago, before Cause of a Kind was actually born, about 11, maybe 11 and a half years ago, we wanted to build our own piece of software. It's how we always started. I always knew it was going to be building software. I just didn't know if it was going to be for us, for somebody else, like whatever. So the first piece of software that we built was supposed to be for membership experiences. Think about like your punch card or a loyalty and rewards program that might exist at your local coffee shop on Main Street. And so the first product that we wanted to build was called Membo, and it was supposed to be a centralized membership platform where anybody on Main Street in your town could participate in a centralized membership experience. And you can just extrapolate that. You see the advertisement plays and the ability to retarget, and for like the dry cleaner to recommend to the coffee shop, and all sorts of what a beautiful product. And like, we think about returning to that all the time because it still doesn't exist. And it would be valuable now with advanced point of sale solutions. Like, we tried to build this before there was really like a terminal level, interface level point of sale solutions in Main Street stores. It used to just be like a credit card swiper and a punch card. Those were harder to introduce technology. Now everybody's got an interface and an app, and that works well. As you can imagine, like, we had an idea that was ahead of the time that we just could not bring to market because people were not ready to adopt technology that way. And so, first failure. Now, you could look at that and you could say like, oh man, we should just stay with our day jobs, which we did, but I still remain curious. What's the next thing I should build? And so from there, I built a whole bunch of other things. I built like a beeswax surf wax company, like a sustainable surf wax company. I'm a surfer, and like, I was just interested, like, okay, we'll do a direct consumer e-commerce play. You can imagine that didn't work out so well. And I'll just save you from the other stuff. We built a whole bunch of other applications that we just couldn't find traction for. Couldn't, like, forget product market fit. We couldn't even find like first or second customers for some of these products. And so wisdom tells us, stay with your day job. Don't leave anything. You want to make sure that you're able to have some throughput. So one day we're in the surf lineup, of course, and we were like, none of that stuff is working. What's the next idea? And so we have this idea. What if we built one-of-a-kind experiences for causes that we care about? And so hence the name Cause of a Kind was born. One-of-a-kind experiences for causes that we care about. Now, I did a whole bunch of work in trying to make that business come through, to only find from a friend, hey, haven't you heard of Omaze? And like Omaze.com is like enormous in this category. Enormous for creating like one-of-a-kind experiences linked with like professionals or like the most valuable people that are on the planet, and it's all based in charity. And I was like, well, shit, we're not going to build that, because trying to unseat them is just not going to happen. But I was so tired of chasing a name. I was super tired of trying to figure out what the title of the product should be. It's like writing the book title before you write the book. And so we said, we're just going to leave it Cause of a Kind. Let's just see what happens. And so when that idea died, we said like, all right, why don't we just become an apparel company? So for a short period of time, still e-commerce, still in the technology sector, we were like, let's stand up an apparel company. We'll make one-of-a-kind short-run t-shirts that are attached to causes that we care about, and a portion of your purchase would go to that cause. That worked really well, actually, for a period of time. That was like big hype. We did a whole bunch in sales. That worked really, really nicely. But the thing that kept showing up at our door was all these people wanted us to build for them in our network. Build my website, build my e-commerce store. I'm starting a business and I need a small piece of software. Like, these opportunities were too plentiful for us to say no. And I have a saying, and I've always had this saying, we follow opportunities and we become passionate about our opportunities, not the opposite. We don't follow passion. Passion is too emotional. We end up failing at passion, and then it ruins the passion for us. And so we follow opportunities. We become passionate about the things that start to work and give us the signal. It's good advice for any founder. And so we just started building for other people. Now, I've got like years of failed things. I've got years of failed names, and like with the state trying to rename a product, and like everything in the world said, do not leave your day job. Every signal said you're not going to be any good at this. And I come from multiple generations of entrepreneurship. I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I went to work first because I just didn't have the idea of what I should go into business for. So I said, great, I'll get a job. And so all of those failures, that leads us to building the business that we have today. And then I have a whole new graveyard, totally different town over, of failings that we have experienced off of this business that works, that's profitable, that has amazing revenue, that has a staff. We make mistakes all the time, but it's in the vein of progress. We're always looking for the new thing to differentiate ourselves on, a new avenue of interest that could be productized, that we could offer to customers. Like, we are failing constantly. And that's the goal, right? The failure is the data that I need to decide whether something works or whether it should be killed. And so I'm just a student of that experience of seeking failure intelligently. If I can't fail at the thing, it should live. And then we can decide whether we should pour gasoline on it and make a business out of it, or make a product line out of it, or make an event out of it, or make a community out of it, or whatever, right? But I think the hardest part for folks is distilling the dream into an action plan. Like, taking the big idea that you have and like, what is the atomic part of that? What is like the very first thing that I need to do? And so if anybody's interested, I have created a course on YouTube. It's called Inception Marketing. And it's all the things that you can do without spending $1 to validate your idea. It's just curiosity. It's just really like uncovering as to whether this idea that you have should exist in the world. And so that's a big piece of this. And I follow that formula constantly for our own initiatives. I see all of our founders that come through our startup studio follow that formula to validate the idea should exist before you ever leverage your home or tap into your life savings or go and get an investor or take out a loan. Or there's so many ways that you can make sure that this idea is worth betting the farm. And so I only knew about all that because I've failed at so many things along the way. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of spending the money. I'm tired of spinning the wheels. I'm tired of investing the team's time in a failed initiative. And so we got to figure out a way that we could definitively say, yes, that idea has legs. And that is something that we should put effort, time, and materials into. And so I got all sorts of stories, but no better one than the cause of a kind failure story.
That's a great way to wrap up here, Justin. Thanks for spending some time with us and unpacking how failure is not just normal, but is in many ways it's a critical ingredient in the founder journey.
Absolutely true.
That's all for today for Founder Real Talk. We'll wrap here.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.